Hey everybody, welcome back to EarthBound Beginnings. Bean here, ready to take you on a journey. Last time we got super duper wrecked, so since turns out we're not ready for Duncan's factory at all, we're gonna warp back to Magic Hand one more time. Just one more time. Don't worry, I've cut most of this out. I just wanted to get some free healing. Can you blame me? I don't want to spend all this moolah on healing when I can spend it on a magic coin. For Stumpy, of course. That poor boy needs as much defense as he can get. He is a big nerd. I don't know if it's been established yet, but Stumpy is a big dork who doesn't like to fight, and he's not built for it. Those poor bullies, put him in a trash can. Maybe if he had a magic coin, he wouldn't have such trouble with bullies. Yeah, and after this we're just gonna do that gauntlet one more time. This little run through Magic Hand at this point is, you know, going through the motions for me at this point. Super duper, not much of a challenge really. And look at that. Thanks to the power of editing, we're already back at Marysville. And you may recall that last time I was done in by my asthma, so I'm gonna pick up some asthma spray so that I'm more prepared for these treks. Also going to pick up a life up cream for good measure. My healing moves and magic herbs heal about 20 to 30. A life up cream is good to have because that heals about 80. So it's actually much more efficient and convenient to have. Now on my way up, guess what I run into? Our old friend, the Maniac Truck. Cure the asthma that he just gave me. Unfortunately, guess what? Guess what, guys? Take a guess how this battle ends. I do my darndest, but look guys, this is a hard game. This is a very, very, very hard game. Turns out this game is pretty tough. And the trucks in particular are very notoriously just ruthless and mean. Here on out, I'm going to be probably I don't know if you'll ever see this, but here on out I'm definitely going to be 4th D slipping away from these trucks at any chance I get, because having asthma is just too debilitating. Like my main and most powerful man just can't do anything? Yeah, no thank you. Anyways, I die again. I don't go back to Magic Hand, don't worry, I heal up, rest up, and go right back to Duncan's factory, and this time I make it farther than I even made it last episode. Look, I found a pass that someone left behind. That'll help me. Probably, right? I mean, I hope so. Learned a new psi power. As you know, I haven't been really keeping track of what psi powers I have and have not been gaining. If I were a betting man, I'd reckon Quick Up, but that looks the newest to me. There's a bunch of psi powers I haven't really had a chance to show off yet. I'll be hopefully showing off some of those soon within battles, here and there. And just to the east here, we find ourselves Duncan's big factory, guarded by a dog. Well, guess what, buddy? Got just the credentials you need. Oh, beans. Dog does a little dance, and then we fight him. Luckily, he is just a stray dog, same as the stray dogs we ran into back in Podunk. Goes down in one hit, no problem. Definitely not a problem. Not like the enemies we're about to run into here in Duncan's factory. Check out how bread works. If you use bread instead of eating it, you start dropping a trail of crumbs, and then you can use that breadcrumb trail to immediately warp back to that spot. So that's handy. You'll see that get used in a little bit. Here's an old robot. He's tough. He's got some high defenses and some powerful psychic moves. PK Beam Alpha is something he uses quite a bit. It's pretty annoying. A lot of this area has some very, very tough enemies, which I appreciate because I definitely don't like just hitting A to progress through battles that I know that I'm going to win. I like a little bit of a challenge here and there. I like the struggle of managing my defenses versus my offenses. Should I spend this turn putting up a psychic shield? Should I spend this turn defensing up? Should I spend this turn attacking? Should I spend it healing? Managing that is one of the core challenges of games like this, and this game in particular, indeed. Now, these two, Dr. Distorter and the Scrapper, they're a handful. This is a very tough battle for me. I don't really know. Do I defense? Do I offense? I don't know. I ultimately choose to defense up Stumpy. He obviously needs it. And it turns out to be useful. Very useful. He only took 1 damage there, which is nice. Still, though, both these enemies really know how to dish it out. And they both take a lot of damage, too, so it's tough to manage this. I don't know if I've made this quite clear yet, but this area of the game is by far the hardest area of the game that we've run into thus far. We've run into some tough challenges. The zoo was pretty tough. Magicant, when we first arrived, was pretty tough. I mean, even just leading up to Duncan's factory, those trucks were obviously giving us a run for our money. We've never run into anything quite like Duncan's factory, though. Of course, there's tough enemies that make it hard to balance offense and defense. And that leads to very, very long battles. This battle in particular lasts 2 minutes, which on its own isn't much, but given this game's random encounter rate, kind of starts to add up after a while. But we've had tough enemies before. No, what makes Duncan's Factory such a rough time is the fact that, much like Sweet's Little Factory, it's a big, gray maze where every room looks the same. It's unclear whether you're making any progress, going here or there. After a 2-minute battle, it's very likely that you'll have forgotten the direction you're going. You'll just, where was I going? Can you tell me? I don't know. Don't rewind the video, that's cheating. Tons of these rooms that have gifts in them, which is nice, but which of these rooms is the room I'm looking for? There's no way of knowing until I, just check every room. I think it's safe to say that after this first run through, I went and looked up a map just so that I could spare myself, running around aimlessly forever. The challenging enemies are one thing. The layout of the level makes this pretty unfun. This is definitely one of the worst parts of the game, this section, I think. And I think a lot of aficionados of this game would agree. A lot of healing going on between battles whenever I get the opportunity. That big bag gets quite the use. Now the bomber is a very tough enemy, or he can be. He uses the bomb, and it does 62 damage. It more than halves Bean's damage. Doesn't do as much to Stumpy. Luckily Stumpy has a pendant on, the H2O pendant, which makes him resistant to fire damage. Very helpful in this area. But still. And luckily he also only goes down after 2 or 3 hits, which is, a little merciful. Oh, and another advantage to Stumpy, he can use... Okay, I never really explained this before, but notice how Stumpy has 0 psychic points. He has no psychic moves, man. He's got none. To make up for this, he has several items that only he can use, one-time offensive items, such as the bomb or the bottle rocket. Anyone else tries to use him, it won't do. But Stumpy can use them just fine, and they pack a wallop. Now, they're one-time use, so you gotta, pick and choose when to use them carefully, but a well-timed bomb or a well-timed bottle rocket can really turn the tides in a very tough battle. Another old robot? No, thank you. Using 4th D-slip to get away from the bombers because I don't want to get bombed again. Unfortunately, I'm now out of psychic points, so I'm going to use this Psi Stone, luckily, that I picked up earlier. Recover a bit of my psychic points. Not enough to justify any more 4th D-slips, but enough, hopefully that I can get by. What's down here? Oh, it's a dead end. Well, what's over here? It's another dead end. Great. Duncan, you really built a terrible, terrible factory. Now, this battle overwhelms me. Stumpy dies. I just decide, you know what? I'm bailing. Fourth D-slip out of there. Use my breadcrumbs to warp back to the start. And head back to town and freshen up. Stock up on maybe some more Life Up creams, some more good stuff. Heal my good friend Stumpy. Take a little snooze in the hotel, of course. Heal up my HP and psychic points. Trying my hardest not to call it pee-pee. Now during my second run through, this is going to be a much more truncated run through, don't worry. But I am going to show off this enemy that I never ran into on my first run through. The Fireball. He's another small little enemy. He only goes down in a couple, 2 or 3 hits, which is thankful. But he does repeatedly do PK fire at us, which is not great. Stumpy, again, wearing that water pendant, which is resistant to fire damage. Very, very helpful. Very good. And PK fire, of course, hits us both. Doesn't just hit one of us. And the Fireball is dealt with. That's that. Now I want to show off how using a bomb at the right time in a battle can really turn the tide. Shield myself, of course. I don't know if I mentioned this, but psychic shields have any damage that you take, which is pretty useful. And the bomb there did 60 damage, which is pretty great, and 59 to the scrapper. It hits them both. So, stock up on bombs if you can find them. Give them to Stumpy. He knows what to do. It's also worth noting and showing that I made a little detour to go over here and get Stumpy a Franklin badge. You might recall I got a Franklin badge from Pippi earlier in the game, which reflects PK Beam Gamma. Now, all these weapons, all these enemies use PK Beam Alpha, so it's not useful here, but it still is super useful and will be useful in the long term. We found the rocket. There it goes. We've done it. If you forgot, the whole reason we were here is to aim that rocket so that we could clear the debris from the railroad tracks so that we could get going. Now, of course, we're going to use the crumbs to just get out of here as soon as possible. Definitely don't want to spend another second in this miserable pit of despair that Duncan calls a factory. And now let's see the results of our handiwork. Stealing a rocket from Duncan. There it is. Not a problem. And now, the rails are open for business. After a slog through a very, 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 very tough dungeon, I think we've earned it. Now the game kind of opens up. We can kind of go to 3 different towns now that were previously inaccessible. We're going to start by going to Reindeer, which is closest, cheapest, and safest, actually. And that's where we're going to pick up next time. But not before we ride the train. First of all, I love riding trains in video games. Second of all, it's viscerally super satisfying to just zoom right across a pretty significantly huge world map that previously took us, you know, so long to travel across. Now we're just making short work of it. That's a satisfying feeling. It's a feeling I like and appreciate. I believe we can walk through that tunnel if we want to, but the enemies there are very tough, so it's worth it to just spend the money on the train. And with that, we've arrived in Reindeer. Gonna do a couple things before we wrap up. We're gonna talk to this old lady, and she's gonna give us a hat. We'll have to bring it to a girl in Snowman eventually. She pieces. And I'm gonna step outside and look at the world map to give you guys a sense of perspective on where exactly we are. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.